Well, today we're joined by Kamala Sessoms, and we're so glad to have you join us. Kamala is a personal injury attorney who really specializes in cases involving rideshare arrangements and also trucking accidents. So, Kamala, welcome to our Ask an Expert series.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to talking more with you about personal injury cases, car accident cases.
Many of our clients take advantage of some of the ride sharing services that are out there. If there's a car accident that takes place, most of those rides, of course, there's not going to be any accidents, but occasionally there are. And in those situations, what are some things that people should do?
Right. So the first thing, if you're involved in an accident and you are the passenger, or even if you're the driver of the rideshare vehicle, the first thing is to take pictures, photographs of the damage that has been done to the car that you are driving or in as a passenger, and damage of the other vehicle. That just solidifies exactly what happened right then at the scene, before the car gets towed away or before that person takes that car home. And the second thing is, especially if you're a passenger, get the information for the person that's driving the car that you're in, because you don't get that information except their name when in their license plate when you actually accept a ride from someone, and also the name and their driver's license of the other driver. That's very important. You don't exchange that insurance information and get their driver's license information, you could be in serious problems later on.
So a quick way maybe to collect that information would be just to take a picture of their insurance card and their driver's license.
Exactly. The best thing is pull out your phone, take a snapshot. You have all those pictures of the accident, actual scene, any damage to the vehicles. If airbags deploy, I say take pictures of that as well. Some people may forget about that because it's in the, and you might be hurt. So, but if you can, or if somebody can for you, take those pictures and have them send it to you immediately. The other thing I would recommend is, if you're able to do it that day or very, as soon within 24 hours, file a claim or file a report on the rideshare app that you're on. A lot of people don't know that they need to do that, but you do need to file a report just saying, listen, I was in a car, we were traveling this, on this road, and this is what happened. So you can get that reported in as well.
All right. That's great advice. Let's break it apart. What if you're the driver of one of those rideshare versus a passenger? Are there things you should say or not say if you're involved in an accident?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So let's start with the driver of the rideshare. If you're the driver of the rideshare and you were not at fault and someone hit you, so long as you were actually on the clock, like you had a passenger in the car and you were driving them to a location, you can speak to the passenger, you provide them with your information, take pictures just like you would if you're a passenger, because the other driver is the person at fault. And I just think it's sometimes easier just not to have a lot of conversation with the other driver, just because they may tell the police officer something different. But definitely speak with the officer when they approach, the scene, arrive at the scene, and just say exactly what happened. I've seen it though, where the other driver, the person's at fault, actually tries to blame the other drivers. So that's why it's best just to, and people can get heated and upset and say, well, you did this and this is why I did this. So to keep kind of the peace, just stay to yourself, take the photos. You can be polite and say, well, can I take a picture of your driver's license just for my records? And usually most people, so long as they're not, intoxicated or anything, will agree to let you take a picture of their driver's license and their insurance card. So now on the other side, if you are the passenger,
Mhm.
you can talk to both parties. You're going to be a witness, basically, of everything that happened. And you'll be listed as the passenger in the vehicle that you were in. Not going to be accused of doing anything because you weren't driving.
Sometimes police are called, sometimes they're not. When do you decide to call the police to an accident versus when not to call them?
I always recommend calling the police, even if it's on private property. Still call them and they can do like a property damage report and say what the property damage is. You want to have something on the day of the accident to be able to file a claim with the insurance company. Now, sometimes you're not able to. Sometimes, the other driver drives off. Sometimes the weather's really bad and both of you agree, like, we're just going to exchange information. We'll contact our insurance company and we'll contact later, or because the damage is not really bad or whatever the reason is. Or the person asks you, can you not call the insurance company? Can we not call the police? Can we just exchange? You can call my insurance company, but let's not call the police because I have to get somewhere. Because it does take at least 30 minutes, at least in Atlanta, to get a police officer to get to the scene. So some people don't want to wait. But I recommend always calling the police just so you can have documentation of what actually happened there, especially if you're injured, so that it can be used in the future by your attorney to kind of, put together the record. Because ultimately, everything you do is on the eye of if you have to go to trial. Now, if you don't think you're ever going to pursue this and you don't have any injuries, then, it's not a big deal. But if you are injured and the insurance company is not willing to, make a reasonable offer, that's something that you're willing to accept for the injuries you've suffered and to pay for your medical, you may have to ultimately go to court. And if you don't have a police report, things can get a lot more difficult.
So I know sometimes injuries don't necessarily show up immediately when there's an accident. Like soft tissue injuries, for instance, they may not show up until a day or two later. Any suggestions or advice if that's the case?
Right. So the majority of accidents are soft tissue injuries. The number of fatalities in Georgia, I don't have the number right off the top of my head, but there's quite a few. But the majority of the accidents, I think last 2021, there was like 375,000 accidents in Georgia. Were soft tissue. So when you are involved in an accident, you may not feel anything the first day, maybe not in 48 hours. But what I always recommend people who are involved in accidents do is go to urgent care. If you can, go to the hospital and get checked out just to be on the safe side. Because one, it documents that you were in an accident and you do feel a little bit of something. And then if you have a little lapse before you actually go to another doctor, you at least say, okay, I did go get looked at. And the insurance company takes that as, okay, there's some type of claim for bodily injury. And then they have a week or so to go to the doctor. It could be, their primary care physician, orthopedic doctor, or a chiropractor. But I think that's important. And it's good to get checked out because you never know, because it is inside your body and you can't see. So I recommend doing that all the time.
All right. How about any other quick insider secrets or tips that you think everyone should know about?
Well, I definitely say, people think, well, I have time to, go to the doctor. I have time to contact an attorney. I can do it, maybe a couple weeks. Time is of the essence when it comes to car accident cases. So I always recommend don't wait to file the claim, because rideshare policies are very large and you want to make sure that especially if it's a multiple car accident, you want to make sure you get your case in and they've accepted liability before all the other vehicles, if it's like a multi-car, start filing in. So that's one reason why I always recommend have an attorney, because they're going to know, like, okay, this is a case. They're able to time the medical with your providers, based on your injuries, and say, okay, I don't know where you're at with your treatment, but this is where we're at with the policy limits. And this is where we're at with how many people are involved in an accident. And we want to make sure you get coverage for your injuries before everybody else expends all the money. Because most policies have a cap. But luckily for rideshare, because they use commercial policies, they have larger policy amounts. So you're able to get the treatment that you want. So that's the good part.
What if there's multiple passengers?
That's a great question. So, if it's multiple passengers, each person is able to file a claim on their own through the rideshare company and be able to recover for their injuries. One thing that we really care about is making sure people know we want them to get the medical treatment that they deserve so they can get better, and also some money in their pocket for the future in case they have to go back to the doctor. We make sure all of our clients are receiving money that's a substantial amount.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Kamala. I appreciate you sharing your expertise with us. Would you mind giving us your phone number and your email address too?
Sure. So my main office number is 404-315-7222. And my email address is legal, legal, at slglawusa.com.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you spending the time talking to us, and hopefully we don't have anybody who gets in an accident, but if they do, you certainly know who to contact.